Hey everybody, quick disclaimer off the top. I realized after editing this video that more or less it looks like a commercial for the Mabru air conditioner. I'm going to talk more about sponsored videos and about how we deal with manufacturers. But I just want to say that Mabru, or any manufacturer or product that we review, they have zero control over what we're going to say. And we tell them up front that we're going to give an unbiased review based on how it performs. It just so happens that with Mabru, we are extremely pleased with how it's doing.
I'll tell you right off the top that air conditioning on Clarity when we're cruising is not a very big priority. The boat has good ventilation and we keep the hatches open most of the time. We really enjoy having the breeze flowing through the boat. Now, we do have a couple issues. First of all, the master stateroom is in the starboard aft quarter of the boat. And the overhead hatch, the main ventilation source for the master stateroom, is sometimes sheltered by the superstructure of the boat. There are definitely occasions, like when the wind goes light or there are bugs around, that we really need some air conditioning. It also really helps when we get to hour 65 on one of these videos. As far as we can tell, pretty much the only reason to have a generator on board is to supply the energy for the air conditioners. So when we took the generator out this summer, we were still trying to solve the problem of cooling the boat, using only the batteries. Now that's absolutely a solvable problem. You just throw more battery at the situation. A lot of air conditioners can run off the inverter and the batteries now, using a soft start. But even though lithium prices are coming down, running that air conditioner off the batteries is a very expensive proposition because most air conditioners are old technology. Our first attempt at running the air conditioner off the batteries was not a complete failure. We replaced the 10,000 BTU unit that came on the boat with a 3,500 BTU unit from the same company. This Cuddy model should run on quite a bit less power. But did we have enough battery to run it all night long?
My God, it's cool in here.
I don't think that we've got enough juice to run the thing all night long. It's drawing a little bit more power than I thought. I'm not exactly sure why, but yeah, about half the night maybe.
Nice. I think we only need it half the night, really. Good job. I'm impressed once again.
Like I said from the beginning, air conditioning is not a top priority. But it's a bummer when you spend so much time and energy and money on trying to make something good and it doesn't work as well as the marketing people told you it would. But I'm an optimist at heart. So when Gulf Nautical and Mabru reached out to say, hey, listen, we've got an air conditioner that uses a lot less power, I said, well, let's give it a shot.
We happy?
The numbers in their marketing material looked amazing.
We happy? Yeah, we happy.
The proof would come after the install, which we did at the end of the Annapolis Boat Show.
I'm psyched, are you?
I'm so psyched.
I mean, we could actually run this thing all night long. I'm a little intimidated by the install, but thankfully, this unit actually comes with an installer.
That's a good deal right there.
Andre Cormier, Gulf Nautical. Thanks for coming all the way up here just to install this unit.
Thanks for having me.
That's some service.
Great day to be testing out air conditioners, wouldn't you say? We both got our jackets
I know.
on.
It's a perfect day for
Did you bring your Canadian weather with you?
Unfortunately, I did, yes.
So you guys are out of St. Pete?
Correct.
Yeah, and you've done a lot of these installs. So this is the 3,500 BTU unit that we had on previously. It's a Dometic brand. Dometic is used in a lot of boats.
Probably the most common, but
Most common, but this is a very different beast. What separates this from this?
Well, the number one thing is it's a 12-volt compressor and a 12-volt blower. So everything on this unit operates natively off of the 12 volts. So you don't need to convert the power to operate this one, which is 115 volts.
So the first efficiency is going to be that we are not using an inverter, and there's always an inverter loss when we go from 12 volt to 110, 120.
Correct. And another thing too, the compressor, it's not fully variable speed, but there are 2 variable settings. So once it's reached the set point, it's going to reduce the speed of the compressor, drawing less and maintaining your temperature inside the boat.
Whereas this old Dometic unit, it's on or it's off.
It's on or it's off, correct.
And typically with this smaller unit, and we'll show the measurements of the BTUs a little later, this would just run all night long. So it's always full strength, always red line. And this one is going to adapt to how much cooling we actually need.
Correct. So it'll go full blast until it's cool enough, then it'll reduce itself to the midpoint, or not quite midpoint, but let's say 3/4 point, and it'll maintain the temperature, and if needed, it'll cycle on and off from that midpoint to maintain the temperature.
All right, let's geek out a little bit. We
Right.
won't go through like all the architecture of how these things work because I don't really care. But this is called this is the evaporator, this part?
Yes.
And there's a difference in materials here. This is all aluminum,
Correct.
whereas this
It's copper, 70/30.
is better at transferring heat.
Yes, and it's antimicrobial. There's no dissimilar metal, so it'll last. It lasts longer overall.
Okay.
Than the aluminum copper.
And probably the last point that makes this way, way more efficient, how efficient we'll know in a little while after we hook it up, is the fact that the feed pumps, this is the feed pump for the Mabru, and this is 12 volt.
Correct.
This is embarrassing to actually show people, but this is the feed pump for our 3500 BTU.
Turn it so you can see all that corrosion.
I don't want to, honey. It's so, oh.
Gotta show 12 meters.
Oh.
This is about to go.
All right, but this is 110. And this, I don't know what the flow rate differences are between the two, but hey, which one do you think uses more energy? I mean, it's kind of obvious, right? So those are the major differences. I think there's only one thing we can do from here. Let's install it.
Let's install it.
Cool.
Not just about. Oh, oops. Now it's off.
People like to learn from their mistakes.
I forgot to turn the breaker off for the air conditioner before I cut the hot, so it just started real quick.
Could have been worse. I could have forgotten to close the seat anyway.
You have moved to a new stage.
Yes, we're to the power stage. Ooh, you brought the good stuff. You don't skimp.
No way.
All right, so the higher the current or the longer the run, the thicker the cable you want to decrease the resistance through it. And you brought the 2 gauge. And is this in?
Which is actually more than what we need, but it'll do the job just right with very minimal voltage drop.
This is the point in the job where you think you're almost done, and you're, I don't know, Andre, what do you say? Your half-hour job can multiply into...
Significant amounts.
It can turn into days, my friend. It can turn into days. No, I'm exaggerating. But this is...
No, it's true. In a Killer 44, it took us all day to fish the wires from the solar downstairs. It was...
Yes.
So yes, it can turn into a day project. That's
So,
for sure.
because I appreciate Andre's time, I fished this smaller gauge wire through the conduit before he arrived so that we could then pull the bigger wires through. So I don't know if that's a useful tip. If you're having troubles, go with the smaller wire and work your way out.
Yes, it's very useful.
And if you're paying somebody by the hour, especially do that before they get there.
All right, so if you want to avoid some frustration when you're running wires, Windex does an amazing job of lubing up the wires as you're passing it through the chase. Of course, soap and other things will work as well, but the Windex will not remain sticky after it's dried off.
Windex. So don't use the fancy 3M stuff that costs $65 for a bottle.
You can if you
The
want.
Windex works
The
just as
Windex
well.
works wonders, yep.
That's a good tip, man. Anything to save a buck.
So we're going to put an MRBF fuse at the source of power. So a lot of people fuse at the wrong end. They fuse at the equipment end, but we need to protect the wire from the source to the unit. And then we have a 50 amp breaker there to protect the smaller wire, which is on the other side.
Now, obviously the install is going to go a lot smoother when you've got an expert like Andre. He's involved from start to finish, and we got this thing done in about 3.5 hours. But I gotta say that this is absolutely positively a DIY job, especially if your boat was previously set up with an older style air conditioner. So the question becomes, is it worth the extra expense? Let's take some measurements and compare the old unit to the new unit. First measurement will be the Dometic Cruise Air Cuddy.
Alright, let's just see how much this sucker draws. Got all the outlets turned off, and I've got the charger turned off. We are at a baseline of 0. Let's turn on air conditioner. Now we're drawing 472 watts. In terms of 12 volt, that is about 38 to 40 amps at 12 volt DC.
Now we're going to measure the BTUs, the British Thermal Units, which is a measure of how much air is moving through the unit and how much it's being cooled. And this is interesting, our 3500 BTU unit is only putting out 2200 BTU. Now if we take the BTUs and divide by the watts used to produce them, we're getting 4.7 BTUs per watt with the old system. Alright, now let's fire up that 7000 BTU Mabru unit.
Full blast, right? That's full blast?
Yes.
Whoa! That's crazy.
I can't wait to see the BTUs.
I know. $6,200 BTU out of 26.8 amps. That's pretty impressive.
This comparison's a little bit apples to oranges, so let's make the competition more fair and run the Mabru unit at whatever it is, half or 3/4 speed. Here it is putting out 3200 BTU, which is very close to the rated output of the Dometic unit. At the Mabru's medium speed, it's putting out 3200 BTU and drawing about 22 amps at 12.5 DC. So that comes out to 11.6 BTU per watt.
Just going through the math real quick once again. We've got, would you say that was 3100 or 3200 BTUs?
Yes.
And it was drawing 22 amps. So that is less than half the watts per BTU of the last setup. It's pretty incredible. That's really impressive.
It is really
Aren't you
impressive.
impressed?
I'm so excited, and it's much quieter.
Yeah, we have the covers off still, so.
I'm not gonna need it tonight.
No.
It's cold.
Andre said though it's got reverse cycle
What?
heating.
It's a heater?
It's a heater too, right?
Yes.
No! Mind blown. Oh my god. So we can have a heater tonight?
Yeah?
Oh my god.
So excited.
It's amazing.
And we could run it off the batteries.
Alright, so what's the catch? There's always a catch, right? Well, the old style, old tech Cruise Air can be had for about $2,000. Meanwhile, the 12 volt Mabru retails at $5,330, quite a bit more. But if you consider the fact that the extra batteries required to run that Cruise Air will put you way over $5,000, you could be way ahead by buying the Mabru. And Andre's going to give you a discount if you mention you saw this video.
It's air conditioner weather, can't you tell? The weather definitely turned. We're on the precipice of getting south around Hatteras in the next week or so.
Yes, cannot wait to get south so we can use that air conditioner.
So the numbers were just really, really impressive here with the Mabru unit. So the old unit, it was hindered a bit. It was handicapped by that old feed pump. But even then, I think that this new Mabru unit is probably getting twice the efficiency. But does that really matter?
I don't really care. I just want to run it all night.
Well, I think we'll be able to. Drawing at 22 amps on half or 3/4 speed, we can easily get through 10 or 12 hours. It's going to use maybe 250 amp hours, and we've got a 1200 amp hour battery at this point. So I think we're okay in that regard.
That means the no-see-ums have no chance.
No chance. Going to keep that window closed all night long. Super huge thank you to Andre Cormier and Gulf Nautical, as well as my brew, for supplying the unit and the effort to get it installed. Just plain good people. And asking Andre, why he got involved with my brew, and I love stories like this. He says, I bought one for myself. It worked so well. I wanted to tell other people about it, and he became a dealer. So if you're interested in getting one of these super efficient units from my brew, contact Andre and go through him. He'll set you up. He's even got installation kits and some information about how you can do it yourself. So very helpful.
Such a great guy.
Yeah,
highly
absolutely.
recommend. And a super huge thank you and shout out to our patrons. We couldn't do this without you.
Absolutely. We are still, I don't want to say recovering, but still soaking in the good vibes from all that Annapolis time with our patrons. Thank you guys so much.
See you next week.
Bye.
This is where we're going to play the A-Team music. Are you old enough to remember the A-Team?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah. Da-da-da-da. Ba-da-da.
That was
How long do you think until that pump completely fails?
Well, it looks like it's about to self-destruct.
Yeah, it does.
Guess what Megan calls me? She calls me Nick Iver. We actually have a professional MacGyver on board, so it's an Andre Guyver.
Andre Guyver.
We got a professional in the house and fellow pilot. So.
Let's hear your song again. Your 18 song.
Andre, this is your turn. Can you do the chorus for me?
You don't want to hear my 18 song.
Da-da-da-da. Da-da-da. Megan, do you remember the A-Team?
Barely. Mr. T.
Mr. T was definitely in the A-Team.
I don't think I watched it. I just, thought Mr. T was cool.
I wanted that van, man.
I know.
The black van? Okay, who was your favorite? It wasn't Murdoch, was it? Don't say Murdoch.
Oh, and the other, what was it? Oh, Knight Rider. Remember that one?
Oh, of course. Oh, yeah.